Hey friends, welcome to the Equipping Podcast from Citylight Church in Omaha. Our goal is to help you grow in wisdom and love for God and neighbor, and we hope that this episode encourages and equips you in your walk with God. So today we are doing one of my favorite books. It's in my top 3 favorite books of all time. That was my birthday gift to you, The Chosen by Chaim Potok.
Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
so
nice.
It's like a guttural H.
Yeah,
Chaim.
it's a very, Jewish name.
So we talked about this book, actually. We had an equipping conversation about fiction. I guess, was that 2 years ago? 2 years ago now?
Like that. Yeah.
So we'll have to
I think you read,
I
know you talked about it. I think you even read a couple excerpts from it during that. So absolutely.
I tried to mimic the accent of the audiobook.
That's right.
That was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
But this book has meant a ton to me. There's a lot of really powerful themes, friendship and fathers, and we'll talk about some of those. But the biggest one for me is just a sort of wrestling with the silence of God.
Right.
And we'll get into that a little bit more also. But it's your first time through the book.
Yeah, I'd never read the book before. I really appreciated the recommendation and buying me the book so that I could actually read it. I mentioned this in other places in our conversation here maybe, but one of the things I think is really, so there's other books like this. So I guess if you've read other books, not exactly like this, obviously, but like in this genre, I really enjoyed Summerland is a book that I would even call for kids, for children. Like if parents wanted to read something to their children that really grasps that sort of baseball and America and all this from like an immigrant who, from the perspective of an immigrant who wants to be, like a first generation or second generation person who's like longing to be thought of as part of the people where he is.
Because that's again, we're going to spoil all of it. So just
we're talking about the book, but you should read it.
It opens with the baseball scene,
right? It's got a baseball scene,
and it even I actually don't have that one, but that one has like 100 pages in the back of background information. Some of it's written by the author himself, but that's part of the background. The backdrop for the story is that there's this sort of inner city baseball league and baseball as a metaphor for America. There's a movement from these immigrant groups to embrace baseball to be seen as sort of as more American.
Yeah, right. For sure. Which is almost comical at some point, because in this opening baseball scene we see, the one team is fully decked out in clothing that is intended by God, but as a part of its creation, as biblically, to set them apart and make them look different. So when they show up on the team they've got long earlocks, hair, and some of them have budding beards. They're boys, but they're young men, and their clothes are all long black Hasidic Jew, Jewish garb. All of that is designed to set them apart, and yet they're participating in an activity here that is designed to, at least be loved, but also designed to be to bring them into the culture.
And that opening scene sets the tone, because you have a Hasidic team, the Hasidim, playing against a Orthodox Jewish team, but sort of more mainstream, in American culture, and that sort of sets the tension, because the two boys who are on these teams then are sort of your main characters
from the get-go, are pitched against each other. So I really enjoyed it. I love history books, and I don't read as much historical fiction, but I love history books. I love sort of this autobiographical sort of historical fiction where somebody's writing characters that obviously stand in for their lives and their background and their story. Right. But I love these because they do such a good job of sort of painting color on things. Like, I am pretty familiar with World War II events and some of the post-World War II events, and read quite a few things about Germany recovery. But so to see all this from the perspective of Jewish boys growing up in New York, looking on with concern to what's happening in Europe and things like this, and the formation of the Jewish nation, of Israel, things like this. All of this It does a beautiful. So yeah, I would read it. If you love history,
it's a cool window historically.
Yeah. If you love history, if you love Americana, or if you have father issues,
right?
Or there's a lot of good reasons to read this book.
Or friend issues, or issues with the silence of God in the face of suffering. All of those things. You would love this.
If you've got Jewish friends and then, the other thing is we're in a time right now where part of American Christendom is grappling with Zionism, with this idea of 100%. What is the sort of Christian or American, I'm not putting those together necessarily, but what is the Christian or American call to how do we support, how do we respond, what do we think? This also has a very, presents a couple of different perspectives on that internal to the Jewish community here, right? Like they're not all, it's not all agreed on there either.
Exactly.
And so this portrays some pretty fascinating history in that too. So if you're interested in that too. Modern politics. As
we typically do, should we give an overview of the story, and then we'll kind of dive into some of the themes.
So it's Danny and Reuven, right, are the two main characters of the book, and they're in a baseball game.
Danny Saunders and Reuven Malter. Right.
And Reuven Malter is the point of view character that we're experiencing everything through his eyes.
Yep. And his father is David Malter. Right.
And he's a Jewish scholar. He's taken on we'll talk about this a little bit later, but he's very much have the conversation, explain everything, think it through. Let's talk. If you have, he'd be the kind of person that if a child came to them and asked them, why is the sky blue? This is a father who's going to sit down and we're going to talk about this until we both feel like we understand it. I'm not going to hide anything from you. Right. So this is Reuven's.
Well, and the interesting thing too is, one of the things I've noticed a few more layers this time reading it. It's probably my third or fourth time through, but like one of the things that stuck out to me this time was just how many times in the story they say, I don't understand. Right. And that idea of I don't understand is constantly being explained by David Malter.
Yeah. Right.
So he's the explainer in this, right? By contrast.
Right. So the other pair is not Reuven. Yeah, not Reuven. Danny.
Danny Saunders.
Danny and his father, Reb Saunders, who is not just a rabbi, he's a tzaddik.
A tzaddik. Yeah.
And as a tzaddik,
which means the righteous one.
Yeah.
But it's what they call the leader of the Hasidic group.
Yeah, it'd be like a leader of like a leader within the Hasidic group of Orthodox Jewish people. And he doesn't explain almost anything at all. Right. I mean, and when he does, he has to do it through roundabout, circuitous conversations.
It's one of the major plot points of the book, that he is raising his son in silence. Right.
And the son does not understand. It says this over and over and over again. But sort of for the most part, his view changes a little bit throughout the book. But for the most part, faithfully trusts that his father has reasons for them.
Yeah. I think in the beginning of the book, he's just frustrated in general
with his father.
His dad's not talking to him, and with various parts of it. But basically, the book takes, it's before D-Day is when it starts, and it takes probably a process of, what would it be, almost 10 years, 8 years?
Yeah, it's up into
not the
6 Day War. It goes up through into the 49 or something?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's like 43 to 49 or something like that.
It's like the end of their high school up through the end of college.
42 to 49 maybe.
Yeah. I think it's the end of high school up through the end of college, like 4 years.
Yeah. But where
we were just talking about how Reb Saunders, his response is very different than...
Oh, yeah. The progression in Danny Saunders' understanding. Because early in the book, he's frustrated. But as it goes on, and partly this is, again, through the explanation of
Danny and
Reuven's father. So Reuven's father basically says, look, there's this Hasidic practice where you raise your children in silence.
Yeah, and whenever he explains it, he only explains a little bit of it, and it's like, Reuven wants to know more, and he's like, I don't like it myself. I can't explain something I don't approve of.
Yeah.
Like
or I can't explain what I don't understand. Is what he says a few times. Yeah.
So he's very so you got these four characters that are interacting with each other and going through college, which is primarily a.
But let's go in an orderly way through the plot, because the first interaction between Danny and Reuven is at a baseball game,
right?
And Danny has this characteristic way of hitting where he always basically just drives it right at the pitcher.
Yeah, straight down the center.
So the pitcher has to duck. And it gets later in the game where Reuven is essentially the closer. He comes in the last inning to try and close it out, and he has this pitch which sinks at the end. And so Danny swings and misses twice, and the third time he hits it at him.
Straight at him.
And later you kind of find out that Danny...
He had his moment.
He could have ducked, but he chose not to. He chose to try and get his glove
This is a moment of will between the two of them. The two of them are opposing each other. Danny has hit the ball at him, and Reuven has tried to catch it.
Danny has called him already in the game epicorson, outside of the law or against the enemy, the adversary.
It's like a bad Jew. In this context, it's like, I don't know, like a Samaritan or something. He's calling him like you're not just a Gentile. You're Jewish, but you should know better. You're bad. You're bad. It's very offensive to Reuven.
Yeah. And so
the two of them, the teams have been antagonistic to each other.
Yeah, very antagonistic. And so he ends up getting hit in the eye. His glasses break, and some glass goes in into his eye.
Broken glasses on the front of the book.
There you go.
What's going on there? So,
but basically, this is the basic plot point: is he's got the shard of glass in his eye. He
goes to the hospital.
He needs surgery to get it removed, and there's a chance that he actually could be blind in that eye. They have to see how. That's
another theme that we'll see through this whole book is sight and seeing and blindness is something that is pulled through the whole story. But so he's in the hospital, and Danny comes to talk to him. Yeah, and that becomes the beginning of a friendship. Actually, one of my favorite quotes in the book is in that part of the book where his father tells him, I think it's his father. I think it's Reuven's father tells him. Or maybe it might be Reb's father, or it might be Reb who says this. But one of the two fathers says you need to intend to be his friend. You need to choose to be
make him your friend.
Make him your friend. This is not like he's giving him the very good and very unusual advice that you shouldn't just wander through life hoping for friends. It's okay to make someone your friend and decide that this will be a good friend for me. I'm going to cling to them.
It's Reuven's father who actually says that the Talmud says there's two great tasks, right? And I think
that a man has to do.
I think one is to choose his vocation or to pursue his vocation, and the other one is to make a friend.
To make for themselves a friend. Yeah. And so he's challenged to make Danny his friend. Yeah. And so they become friends, and that becomes the opportunity for us to explore both worlds through both of their eyes, as they don't understand or see each other very well and understand each other's worlds very well.
But the first thing that needs to be said that is really key is that Reuven is a very intelligent boy who studies Talmud, and it's cool to get into this world of Talmud study, because you get to see an insight into not just what the importance of studying Torah and Talmud,
but
for
the
them,
joy, the nuance,
but also just the intensity of it. Like we're miles away from this sort of educational earnestness, like the hours and hours that they pour into it, and the memorization,
the
of
levels of conversation happening and testing and retesting and conversation, over and over and over again. Yeah.
So Reuven is a good student of Talmud, and he goes very deep. Like he knows grammar and he knows Hebrew really well, and all.
His father wants him to be a professor or an educator, and he intends to be a rabbi. Whereas Danny is also very bright.
Well, no, because Danny's not just bright. He's like once in a generation type of
photographic memory. Perfect understanding of books and moments. Very.
Anything that he's read, he can go back and recite it.
But he also understands it.
Right.
Like he synthesizes it well.
Yeah.
And so he's brilliant, and his father wants him to be the new Sadiq.
Yeah, well, in fact, it's a hereditary position. So Danny is
born to be
the whole story. He's saying, I will be a rabbi whether I want to or not, because it's an inherited position.
So right off the beginning, you have these two boys with their two fathers. The one could be whatever he wants to be, a professor or whatever, and his dad wants him to be that, and he is planning to be a rabbi, and the other's father wants him to be a rabbi, and and he wants to be anything else. And so that's a fun tension between the two of them. They envy each other's freedom or each other's drive or decision, fate.
But the other plot twist here, right at the beginning, is that when Reuven's father comes to visit, Danny's there one time, and basically he sees Reuven's father, and he's like, "Whoa, what is happening?" Because Danny has been going to the public library. Studying Talmud for him is relatively easy; it doesn't take that long. So he goes to the library and he reads other books, and he basically came across this old man in the library and said, "Hey, what should I read?" And it turned out that was actually Reuven's father.
Right. Who has been, I think, with respect for Reb Saunders, has been gently giving him interesting stuff and giving him, knowing that this boy would
he's making recommendations of things he should read, knowing that he's going to read.
He's going to read it anyway. So he's doing something that he thinks is helpful to both of them, both Reb Saunders and Danny, but also something that Reb Saunders would not be happy about. Reb Saunders would blame him for recommending stuff that Reb Saunders certainly wouldn't agree with.
That's his worry.
Yeah.
And
so there's some tension
in
there.
particular, Danny gets into reading Sigmund Freud. Which is fascinating for me. There's a lot of psychological sort of, there's the tension between psychoanalytic Freudian psychology and behavioralism, which absolutely is present, and especially in the American context at that time.
The author's wife is the psychologist there. So that's that. I thought that was interesting.
Oh, interesting.
That's where the psychology background comes in.
Yeah. Well, the whole book is just chock full of his autobiographical elements.
But I was wondering where the psychology comes in. The author's wife is the psychologist.
Okay. So. So anyway, that sets up the tension, because now you have this sort of triangle, or maybe
square,
or like a square. Yeah. So you got the two fathers who can be at odds with each other, but then you've also got these connections between them. But shortly after that, they go. Once Reuven's home and his eye is healed and all this, he goes to the synagogue with the Hasidic group. Right?
Maybe experiences things from their perspective. Yeah. Well, and early on, I think he kind of assumes that they're going to go back and forth and try each other's, which is kind of not the case, because Danny can't. Danny can't eat with him. He can't go to his stuff, because the Hasidic group is so much more strict and has so many more rules.
They need to be separate. Yeah,
they need to be separate. And so even eating at another kosher person's home is not sufficient. It needs to be within this done this other way, and separate. And so, so he ends up spending time and goes through this this ritual that they go through in their meeting. So this is in front of the congregation, the Reb Saunders congregation, where Danny is sort of, anyone I guess theoretically is quizzed, but it's really Danny is quizzed on they're taught until Danny catches a mistake that has been planted by Reb Saunders. So he intentionally
plants a mistake.
Yeah. So imagine if we had preachers at our podium, at our pedestal, who were preaching, and they were intentionally preaching a mistake every week with the intention.
That's not in chapter 20. That's in chapter 16.
Of you coming out and finding that mistake. I mean, that's actually not what Jesus said. Jesus said this in verse whatever. He said that way back in this verse. And the intention would be actually to create that conversation and to have that conversation teach you deeper. So again, to your point about it being just a whole different level of engagement with the text. That was at first, and maybe even by the end of the book, still a frustrating experience for Reuven to watch Danny go through, because it did not feel it was very impressive. Very impressive. Danny's very impressive. Reb Saunders is very impressive. Everybody's very impressed. It's very impressive, but it didn't feel loving to Reuven. It didn't feel like this is the way a father should talk to his son.
Right.
And so anyway, he has this experience that's very, very.
And there's that. I think that's, again, it underlies the central challenge is that Reuven's dad is nurturing and talks with him and in some ways helps him out of difficulties, but Danny's dad is kind of the opposite.
Won't do it at all.
Silent
In fact,
and puts more difficulties.
Has two long conversations in the book, and they're both with Reuven, not with Danny. They're both one at the beginning where when Danny leaves, he has a long conversation. Says basically, "What are your intentions with my son? What's going on? Tell me what he's reading. And
Tell me what he's
stuff.
reading."
Yeah,
right.
And then at the end of the book, we have this other conversation, which actually happens in front of Danny and becomes the father's way.
Well, we don't want to spoil that yet.
But those are the only two real conversations we get with Reb at all in the book.
Yeah. So Reb is I think a fascinating character for me because my dad's not like either of them to be honest, but Reb represents a sort of authoritative, just someone who's kind of a tough love person, and is very rigid.
The final word when he says something, there isn't going to be an argument.
And there's even a scene like towards the end of the book where, and I won't get into the topic right now, but basically he kind of blows up at the table, at the dining room table, and everybody's like, "Oh no!" And like it kind of takes the air out of the whole room, right?
That's part of Danny's frustration with him, is that the only things he ever hears from his father is either this teaching conversation about Talmud or him blowing up.
Yeah.
And I can certainly relate with that. My father, sort of growing up at least, was kind of the same. Like it wasn't Talmud or blowing up, but there were like two modes, and one of them was blowing up. And I can certainly understand Danny resenting that. Yeah. If you've only got two faces to show me, why is one of them this?
Yeah. The sort of shearing anger.
Yeah.
And that's what that scene represents later in the book is like it's the like shock of like, imagine, somebody came in and threw a bucket of cold water on you. It's just like, what just happened?
Well, and it does a really good job of reminding us and portraying very clearly, just in case somebody would get confused, Reb is not some angelic hero in this story. Right. The fact that he is this very authoritative, very wise, very capable tzaddik is not unblemished.
Well, he's an ambivalent character.
Yeah.
Because you on the one hand, there's a couple things about him where you're like, wow, I wouldn't do it that way, or maybe that's not quite right. But on the other hand, I'll come back to that later, but on the other hand, you do see his level of intentionality and his love for his sons. And I mean, like he sort of gets revealed as benevolent at the end, and you're like, where did that come from? Anyway, where we were in the plot was basically this relationship is developing between the boys. Danny's reading these books, sort of fed by Reuven's father, and it sort of works its way to the point where Danny realizes that he is not going to take the hereditary rabbinic tzaddik office
role, right?
And he is terrified of telling his father,
and he knows it like a year in advance. I mean, he's kind of all known it for a while, but he has verbalized it like a year in advance. So he's looking forward to, not positively, but dreading this conversation that's coming at the end of his college career, basically, where he'll tell his father, because his father could just pull him out of college.
100%, yeah.
And he needs to finish this.
His father could snap his fingers and just crash.
There's a lot of power within everything, and he would be out.
And the stress of it takes its toll on Danny, right?
Yeah, he loses weight and everything.
And I think one, again, really interesting thing is you start the beginning with Reuven with the glasses broken and the eye problems. As the book goes on, Danny is the one who gets into these eye problems, right? Like he's reading Sigmund Freud, he's learning German, so he's reading him in the original German, and he really he sort of deteriorates under the stress of that and the impending doom that he feels from his father.
Yeah, I think exactly, and so. And Reuven's real conflict through this whole thing is, for the most part, he's also hurt by some of all this, but a lot of it is just anguish on behalf of his friend.
On behalf of Danny,
He really doesn't want to see Danny going through all this trouble. Not being loved by his father is what it seems like to Reuven. Not being loved well by his father. All these other pieces of it are all feeding into a real concern for his friend, who throughout the story, throughout this sort of last couple of years of their college time, there are times when they don't get to talk for like 2 years for various reasons.
So it culminates into two big plot points. Number one is the rise of Zionism. So Reuven's father, David Malter, is not just an advocate, but a major player in the promotion of a Israeli state. And by contrast, Reb is
absolutely against it.
And the reason he's against it is because he doesn't want an Israeli state that is, as he calls it, a goyim state.
Yeah, a secular Israeli state is worse to him than no Israeli state. He'd rather God deliver it as with his Messiah. Then
when Messiah comes,
he'll take care of it.
Right. Which is fascinating to me, because this does over again align kind of with my background and yours too, probably, in that among Christians, let's call the David Malter's position a sort of activism. There's an activism to bring about God's plan for the world.
He is devout,
rescues people,
but he believes that they're called to do it.
And David Malter is reacting to the
Holocaust.
The Holocaust. The murder of 6 million Jews.
And they mention it several times to remind us it's not. It is the abstract Holocaust, but it's also specific. Reb Saunders, his brother, died there without him having gotten to speak to him again, and he doesn't know his spiritual condition, right?
Especially Reb Saunders knows a lot of people who died.
And so this is not an abstract thing to these four men. These four men are, it's very, very poignant. The book does a very good job of putting us in a place where we can understand it.
So both of them have ties,
to Europe.
So David Malter is responding to the loss and the grief and all of this by saying, let's use this to get a foothold on our.
Don't let it mean nothing.
Don't let it mean nothing. Let those deaths mean something. And by contrast, Reb Saunders is no. A secular Jewish state is worse than not having.
We may not understand this, but we must trust God even in this. This misery. And
that's the theological angle, right? So the activism is like, well, God wants us to do something, and the passivism, let's call it, would say, no, if we act out of step with what God is doing, that's worse than if we had just stayed still.
Those positions have modern strokes in the modern Christian church. How should the Christian church interact with, vote for, vote against, think about?
It's a major aspect of Christians in politics, right? Or even Christians in global affairs, including with the nation of Israel, right?
It's funny. It's within the last 2 years, I've heard people, I think rightly, say that the issue of specifically Israel is both the weak point in the right and the left. It's the thing that the right has a fracture and it's over that, but also so does the left has a fracture and it's over that, which is fascinating. So it's still there's echoes of that run through what we're doing.
So the rise of Zionism is one major plot point here. The second major plot point is David Malter's heart attack.
Right. His health has been sort of always tenuous, and it is failing. There's a pinnacle here, and then it's declining after that.
But those two things come together interestingly in the second half of the book, because what basically happens is David Malter is in the hospital, right? But he also because David Malter has been an outspoken advocate of Zionism and has spoken at the rallies. Reb Saunders has basically cut off Danny, the whole family, Reuven and David,
which means that Danny and Reuven can have no contact.
So now Reuven is at home while his dad's at the hospital, and he also is side by side in classes and in the hallways and all with Danny, his good friend,
cannot speak to him,
and they can't speak to him. Yeah.
And so this is one of the
Reb has threatened. He said, "Look, if I even catch you associating at all at school, I'm going to pull Danny out, and he's going to just get his rabbinic ordination and be done."
Yeah.
Right.
And that's one of the big pain points in the book, because this is when Reuven needed his friend.
Yeah.
Right. When his father was going through this and everything
and
else.
he wasn't there. But what's fascinating to me, and I just noticed this for the first time, was just how much this is the moment in the story where Reuven experiences silence, and he hates
cut off from.
He rejects it. He doesn't. Like there's no part of him that says
it's not beneficial.
That this is beneficial, right? So in that sense, he's mapping with his dad, right? Like no, let's fix this. Let's get past this.
At no point is he sitting in it patiently and trusting that it's okay.
Right. So when they finally come,
he's furious about it.
When they finally, basically, what lifts the separation is now with this new state established, it's passed. You can't do anything about it.
I think it was like the end of the 6 day. It was a 6 day war or something. Right. Something happened. People got killed.
Lots of people,
and including one of them who was a former student of the school.
Right.
And basically everybody okay, the fight's over.
Yep.
Or the issue has been decided. This isn't worth fighting anymore.
Right.
And Reb Saunders, even practically speaking, which is unusual for Reb to be practical, but he's practical, and you're fighting about something that's been lost.
Yeah, and he relents, and so then they come back together in friendship, and we're mostly near the end of the book now.
The thing, speaking of structure and stuff, because the end of the book is just a great conversation between, and is more less plot and more. Everything kind of comes together, and the end of the book is that Reb and Reuven have a conversation, and we come to some sort of understanding about some stuff in front of Danny, who gets the opportunity then to understand something about his father. But I think
it's the reason to read the book.
I was going to say, but I think that's the genius of this book, is that the book is if you like one of those really long winding jokes that has a very short punchline that is just. The punchline is not worth it on its own, or is too weird on its own, and so you end up listening for a really long time for almost nothing. But it's worth it because of I think that's how this book is. This book spends a long time. All the chapters up to the last chapter of the book are setting the table for the last chapter of the book. The last chapter of the book is masterful.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have the weight. It wouldn't matter if you didn't read the book.
Yeah.
And so. But I mean, the last chapter of the book is why you were talking about the book.
Exactly. Yeah, and I almost feel bad revealing it, but I think I actually read this.
Yeah, you've read pieces of it.
But basically, I mean, how much should I read? You want me to read some of it, or should I just talk?
I had a couple.
About
let me see what I had here. I had a couple of excerpts that I underlined that I thought were.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the story. Daniel reading the story. He says, Reuven, when my Daniel was 4 years old.
Oh, sure.
And again, just picture the setting. They're in a situation where Reb Saunders is there, Danny's here, Reuven's here, and Reb Saunders is talking to Reuven, not Danny. Still, he's maintaining his silence.
Right.
But he says, Reuven...
almost never changes. There's only a couple of
It's actually
lines.
just changes right here at the end,
yeah.
the one time. Reuven, when my Daniel was 4 years old, I saw him reading a story from a book, and I was frightened. He did not read the story. He swallowed it as one swallows food or water. There was no soul in my 4-year-old Daniel. There was only his mind. He was a mind in a body without a soul. It was a story in a Yiddish book about a poor Jew and his struggles to get to Eretz Israel, again, the land of Israel. How that man suffered. And my Daniel enjoyed the story. He enjoyed the last terrible page because when he finished it, he realized for the first time what a memory he had. He looked at me proudly and told me back the story from memory, and I cried inside my heart. I went away and cried to the master of the universe, what have you done to me? A mind like this I need for a son? A heart I need for a son. A soul I need for a son. Compassion I want from my son. Righteousness, mercy, strength to suffer and carry pain. That is what I want for my son, not a mind without a soul. And that even how that ends there, the idea of righteousness, again, that's the sadaka word, right? It's a sadiq is someone who's righteous. And what is that righteousness? It's a person of compassion.
Right.
And this is what you learn about Reb Saunders as the story continues, is that Reb Saunders feels that one of his primary roles is to feel the sufferings, to bear the sufferings of his people.
In fact, he even says a little bit later than that, he says when he's talking about his brother, and he learned about his brother's death, and that he was that he had died not an observer of the commandments, or as an observer of the commandments, but or no, not an observer. He says, but not he goes he was not an observer of the commandments, but not a convert. Thank God.
Yeah.
He says, I would like to believe that before he died, he learned how much suffering there is in this world. I hope so. It will have redeemed his soul.
Right.
And I think that is at the heart of Reb's theology, the premise of the book. Reb believes that his son needs to be compassionate and understand and feel suffering, not just his own suffering, but the suffering of others. And that if he cannot do that, then he basically has no soul. And so that's what he's praying for his brother, but also for his son. This is and the whole raising him in silence is a desire. It's a huge trade, a huge cost. He trades so much of his time with his son, with a son that he loves and wants to talk to. In the desperate ploy to create in him a soul or a righteousness, a soul that he can love.
Well, and this is what Danny. I mean, because again, at the end of the story, Reuven asks Danny, like, are you going to raise your son like this? And he says, unless I can find a better way.
Right.
But like the whole thing for Danny about this raising in silence is that he what he values of it is that he has learned how to listen to silence. Yeah. So he sees suffering in silence as communicating something that's worth listening to. Right. And so there is I mean, at the core of this book is this question, might it be that
could there be a reason
that the silence of God actually is meant to be formative to us, to help us to hear.
And the book is not preachy. Like the counter question to that is, or did this just hurt?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, was this worth it? Is an open question.
That's what shocks you at the end, is that even Reb Saunders is saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I could have done it different.
He said he comes to terms with his son going to become a psychologist instead of a Sadiq. He says I had to make certain that his soul would be the soul of a Sadiq no matter what he did with his life. And then later, a couple pages later, he says, let my Daniel become a psychologist. I have no more fear now. All his life, he will be a Sadiq. He will be a Sadiq for the world, and the world needs a Sadiq. And so, he's come to terms with the fact that now that he has, in his mind, or now that Danny has developed a soul, right? Yeah. That will be of Sadiq-like benefit to the world wherever he is. Yeah. And
And Danny's compassion is, again, the soul of a Sadiq is the soul of compassion. Right. Danny's compassion is going to find a channel in helping others as a clinical psychologist. Right.
So a core claim in the book.
I'm sorry. What did I mean clinical psychologist?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's what he ends up, because there's a whole other other thread there where he's going back and forth between whether it's all theoretical psychology and experimenting with rats and charts and math, or is it people, and is there no value to one and only value to the other, and that's a whole other thread throughout the book. So one of the core claims of one of the major voices in the book, Reb Saunders, is that suffering and silence are ways to create formation. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's something that the book is wrestling with.
If righteousness is compassion, then suffering is a channel to make us righteous.
Right. And in this case, silence from his father is intentional suffering. It was the creation of that suffering. Right.
Yep. Which, by the way, my sister-in-law teaches this in her class in Des Moines, and
teaches this book.
Yeah. With I think it's freshmen or something like that. But she says almost universally in her classroom, people hate Reb Saunders and say this cannot be justified.
And in fairness, I think Reuven, the point of view character, he maybe doesn't hate him by the end, but he does not come full circle
he doesn't
agreeing with him.
He does not agree with this
this at all
technique.
He is not. It is not a blind. Although, like as you pointed out, somebody does ask, "Will you do this too, Danny?" And Danny says, "Well, unless I can find a better way."
Yeah.
So
Danny's
seen the value
still,
in it.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so there's it's really grappling with that. I think is one of the neat things that it's a compelling case for the silence of God. It's also
minimally it's a sort of why don't you just push back for a second and stop presuming that there could be no possible good reason for this.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because like I said, I think about half of the book is dedicated to saying, and that's stupid.
But again, it's the explainers who are all saying that, right?
For sure.
The people who listen to silence, they're not saying that. I mean, Reb Saunders, at the very end, when he turns to Daniel for the first time, he says, Daniel, he said brokenly, "Forgive me for everything I have done. A wiser father may have done differently, and I am not wise."
Right.
So I just think the book's fascinating. I mean, there's a larger theological question about like the silence and inactivity, where God doesn't intervene in suffering in the world. So that's a big theological question. But I think one of the more interesting questions for me, having read the background, is Chaim Potok's own wrestling, because he was raised not in a Hasidic family, but in a community that was very orthodox and rigid.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what he's wrestling with, and even by a father who was not real compassionate with them. And so a lot of this it almost like seems like he's wrestling both simultaneously with the theological question and with kind of redeeming.
Yeah. Why did my father do the way he did?
Right.
Yeah.
He gives his father a voice for sort of explaining maybe that this is it.
That was something I spent a lot of, that was something I really wrestled with when my father was passing away. And a lot of the time that I spent with him was sitting mostly in silence, but not like this kind of silence. But there just wasn't much to talk about, and he wasn't very good at talking at that point.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was just sitting in silence with a man who sort of did his best and coming to terms with, like, I don't know, what else could he have done? He didn't. Right?
Yeah.
And reconciling and just being okay with his best effort.
Yeah.
I
think on like a theological level, though, I think all of us feel like, well, God, why on that thing that I still feel 10 years later?
Yeah.
Why on that thing did you not hear my prayer?
Right. Especially when you see God so visibly step up and step into other places in your life or other people's life in that kind of area.
Yeah, in that same area.
Right? Sure. Where you're like, well, why help him and not me? You know, which I could see Danny saying he's got a little brother who his dad does talk to. Right? It's not like this is just the way he parents everyone.
Right.
He parents him this way.
Yep.
Yeah. Which has got to be frustrating.
But it connects with us because we've experienced this. We've asked this question, the same question.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly. I do like that both fathers have a very intentional way of creating character in their son. Right? Reb Saunders is creating character in his son with silence and making him reconcile with his own inside himself. But Reuven's father has a very intentional sort of this. This is probably the way more than anything that I've parented is that, like, I am that, whatever they ask, we'll talk about it. And sometimes really hard conversations about things that we didn't think that they were ready to know about yet, but they asked, so we'll talk. And so he has this very intentional, I will explain everything to my son. And I think one of the things that really
oftentimes in the morning after I get some sleep.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that's neat, or a side point of this book, or an idea in this book, is that the friendship that they get, and it's both a grace and it's a grace in that God gave them a good friendship. But it's also this intentionality, like he said, make for yourself a friend. Both of these fathers drove these two boys toward finding a friend.
Yep.
And the friendship between them ends up doing, or maybe sealing for both of them in a way that maybe either one of the techniques wouldn't have done. Reb Saunders' strategy was a good strategy, but he points out at the end that he was on the verge of losing Danny over this. This was not like
he's thanked God 1,000 times for Reuven and his father.
But Danny was on the point of rebelling when he met Reuven and his father, and Reuven also was. It's Danny that pulls Reuven into a much deeper understanding of his own people and his own culture and his own all of this. And so I do think that whether you look at it as the grace of God of a good friendship, or the wisdom of their fathers, not in their brilliant parenting strategies, but in being intentional and saying you need a friend, you need someone to walk through this with you. But it is their friendship that becomes the thing that makes it work.
And I mean, just to be honest with you, I've, since the first time I read it, which was probably over a decade ago, 15 years ago maybe, it's a book that sort of awakens in me a longing for deeper friendship, because there's, I mean, again, from my sister-in-law who teaches this every year for high schoolers, a number of the people, annoyingly, are like, maybe Reuven and Danny are gay. And
it's got that Samwise and Frodo, David and Jonathan thing where
that speaks volumes for our own culture more than it does, because honestly, the notion of friendship has been so degraded to the point where we don't, like, to say make him your friend, it seems almost absurd to us, right? And what is friendship? Well, friendship
because
is
we don't put claims on each other. We don't feel authorized to claim each other, because
like I needed you and you did me wrong by not being there.
Right, because we are so radically free.
The most fundamental thing about everybody from our perspective is that we have to give them their freedom to do whatever they want.
Self-expression and freedom.
And so the only thing in our minds that can make anybody be that committed to another person
is if I can
would be some sort of erotic love.
Right. Something that pays off for me.
Right.
Something that uses you up and pays off for me.
But I do think, I mean, and I think C.S. Lewis talks about this a lot too, is that friendship was something deeper in the early 20th century, right? That there was a possibility of men being friends in a deeper way.
It absolutely goes back to this desperate pursuit of being free from all entanglements, right. As opposed to just a recognition that we're not. That I have obligations to everyone. I have obligations to you, and I have obligations to my family, and it's okay for people to lean on those and ask for something. And that's one of the ways that Reuven develops in the story, is that he several times pushes back on his obligations to his friend, until he realizes that when his friend is separated from him, that he needs him, and that's certainly a development. It becomes the driving force toward the end of it, is that Reuven has several times rejected speaking to his friend's father, Reb.
Reb always likes,
until
he sends out the bat signal by saying, "So is Reuven going to come study Talmud with us this Shabbat?"
But he's pleading for him to come. Why? Because he and his son need to reconcile. They need to speak.
He needs to talk to Danny through
him
Reuven
directly, right? And Danny, or Reuven, in pursuing his freedom to be angry about all this, has actually, until his father chastises him, is like, "What are you talking about? Has he really been asking for you? Go like, talk. How can you? They need you, right? Like, this is what being a friend is. You need to go."
Well, there's a line that shows up 3 times in the book it shows up pretty early. Well, let's see if I can find it again here. It shows up pretty early in the book. But basically, the line is, it's not so easy to be a friend, right?
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that's borne out in the story is that the friendship,
they're choosing to be friends.
It perseveres by their choice through a lot of turbulent issues, right?
Yeah. You can let a friendship end and let a friendship die and let it drift apart.
Yeah.
And the characters of the book are telling you, don't do that.
Yeah.
Choose for that
to
not happen.
Fight through the hard times.
Yeah.
Show up when it's
Don't
very inconvenient for you to show up. Yeah.
It's a good book. Thank you for it.
Yeah. I think for me, maybe I'll just say what my most prominent takeaway is. I think for me, it's kind of like The Man Who Is Thursday when you get to the end, and you see the face of the God character there, Sunday, in The Man Who Is Thursday, and there's a sort of resolution in coming around to that. And to me, the last chapter with Reb Saunders is that sort of coming around.
Yeah, I agree.
There's something like the posture that Danny takes up where he says, yeah, I don't understand it, but I trust him, I think is the posture that we all have to take up. And we don't have the sort of wisdom to understand the calculus of universe making and how much suffering is appropriate or necessary, or what an inappropriate level of suffering would be. But we all have the things in our lives that we're like, I just wish that wasn't there. I wish that, why would you do that? And I think this gives us an opportunity to consider that it's possible not just to say that suffering could be reconciled. I mean, Paul says the sufferings of the present time aren't worth comparing to the glory that's going to be revealed. Like we can say that, but also to just internalize the fact that there may be something deeply formative in the moment of suffering where I would learn to listen. Like I would learn to slow down and to learn the lessons of the moment and to draw near to God into it where I have a much deeper dependency. And I think there's a critique for both fathers here, right? Reb has this deep dependency on God, yet doesn't takes his pacifism so strongly that he risks being neglectful to Danny. And then on the other side, Reuven's father David is taking action and explaining everything that he almost dies a couple times in the book, and doesn't. And Danny just seems that every problem can be solved, and he learns through his friend's suffering that he needs to listen to silence.
Yeah, that's right.
How about you? What's your biggest takeaway?
Man, I think it's the friendship thing. I think it's I think it's a drive toward not being just hoping for good friendships that stay. Like I think that's something I hear from people all the time. Like I don't have any real friends, or I don't have any close friends or anything like that. And the wisdom, and one of the wisdoms in this book would be to say, make a friend, right? And then keep a friend, right? Yeah. Like I think we're so atomic, so willing to just go on our own. We treat, sometimes we joke a lot about, or I joke a lot about, we'll treat church like grocery stores. If this church offends me, there's 3 more like it. And that's okay.
And friendships like online dating. There's always somebody else who might be a better fit. And
I would take the lesson, a lesson from this book, I think, would be to say no to that. To say no, these are the friends I have. These are the ones I'm gonna deepen, and these are the ones I'm gonna depend on and make claims on. Yeah.
Well, I bought the book for you because I appreciate your friendship.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I don't know at what point in time I decided to make you my friend, but you are, and I'm grateful for you.
Yeah, likewise. It's a good book, and you're a good friend.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that was nice. You guys all got to see that. Very, very nice.
Until next time.